This is Pete Jones, and you are listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. First off, we have a call in from Colin Green of Spike Pit.
Hey Pete, it's Colin, Spike Pit. Man, just wanted to say you're prepped for the Lamentations campaign in the Midlands you're running. I couldn't believe it, mate. I reckon your players are very lucky indeed. You've done it all for them there, man, and I take my hat off to you. Well done, sir. Oh, and the other thing, you must have a bag like Mary Poppins, some kind of bag of holding, man, to get all that stuff in. Wow. Amazing.
Thanks, Colin, for that call in. Yeah, my planning. Well, for 5 years I worked in operational planning, so I'm a bit of a devil for planning, and maybe I overdo it, but I'd like to be prepared. But of course, no plan ever survives first contact with the players. And as for my bag of holding, yeah, well, I do carry an awful lot of stuff with me. I've got a little crate on wheels, which I carry some stuff in, but yeah, I take far too much stuff, and yeah, I do spoil the players, you're right. I love rule-light games. As a GM, it takes the pressure off me. I can think about the story and concentrate on the players and the action. So I'm always on the lookout for simple games, and one I came across recently was Minimald6 by Norbert Matausch. I'll leave a link in the show notes, but it's a very simple dice pool game. Characters have 6 attributes, your normal 6 attributes, and basically you roll a d6 for each one, with 1 being really bad and a 6 in that stat is really good. These attributes are used to decide if you've got advantage or disadvantage when you're doing an action. Character creation is dead simple. You have a character class, and after the class is a list of abilities and or items. And they're very vague, and it's up for the player to decide what it actually means. You start on level 2, which means you can choose 2 of those abilities from the list for your character class. And basically the game is you describe what your character's doing and you roll 2d6. And all you require is a 5 or a 6 on either of those 2 dice to be successful. If you have an advantage of any kind, you add another d6, so you'll be rolling 3. And the advantage may be you're in a better position. It may be that you've got a trait or ability that gives you an advantage. It may be that one of your attributes is high for that task. So for example, if you have got a high strength and you're doing an action which involves strength, you get an advantage. And again, you look for 5 or 6s, but you never roll more than 3d6s. Similarly, if you have a disadvantage, you roll a d6 less. So at the most you'll be rolling 3d6, and at the least you'll be rolling 1d6 and looking for a 5 or 6. Levelling up is handled very simply. When the GM decides that you have levelled up, you pick another special from your list, or you can create a new one. Non-playing characters, you can create traits for them, or as Norbert says, just wing it. And small weapons do d6 damage, medium weapons and firearms do 2d6 damage. Large weapons can do 3d6 damage. There's also an optional dilemma dice, and basically you introduce an additional dice. The dilemma dice has one side with a symbol marked on it, and you can make that symbol relevant to your type of game. So for example, one side would have a flash symbol on it. Whenever you roll a dice, you roll your dilemma dice. It doesn't count towards your score, but if you roll the symbol, then something happens, a negative happens, and the GM will decide what it is. And he also includes mass combat rules, which are optional, and alternative combat rules. So as you can see, it's a very simple game, and that's what I like about it. You can easily pick it up and run with it if you want to do a one-shot. So I thought it was an idea to write a Minimald6 game. There's quite a few out there already. There's one based on Stranger Things called 80s Kids. There's another one based on Vampire, which is called Fangs. Another one on Mad Max called Furious Roads. And there's a great one on the 70s, think of Shaft and those sort of films, called Get Funky. And there's another one which is quite good as well, called Renegade Time Lord. So that's for playing your Doctor Who type games. And they're all dead simple. Some of the authors have added to them. So I thought, what a great little system. And I think I'd write something for it. So, my addition to the Minimald6 list of games is called The Long Game, and it's a role-playing game about conference tricksters. And think of films and TV series like The Hustle, The Sting, Leverage, The 18 White Colour. That's the sort of vibe I'm going for. So I've got 5 attributes, which is coordination, endurance, reflexes, strength and intellect. And again, you can you roll a d6 for each of those to give you a ballpark figures. Each character has stress, which starts at 3 plus their endurance score and their strength score, and those are stresses your hit points. And the characters I've gone for, the role types are the brains, so he's the one that organises the team. The face is the one that does all the acting, mingles with people, gets the information. The muscle, he's your brawny guy, self-defence, ex-military. The geek, for doing all your technical stuff, hacking, bypassing surveillance systems. The thief, who's your cat burglar, and they can steal things for you. And finally the fixer, who's the one that if you need anything, they know where to get it, and they can get it for you. Each character has a flaw, which is rolled for randomly, and that character's flaw is something that will give you disadvantage in certain situations. So the rules are the same as for Minimald6, and the bit I've added at the end is how to make a long game. And for those that don't know, the long game is the British term for a long con. So in these sorts of shows, what usually happens is a client contacts the team with a problem. The team then identifies the target, look for their weakness, and makes a plan against them. Usually in these shows, the team seems disadvantaged. The target that they're following or are after gets one over on them, but eventually the team outwits them and wins the day. So to assist the referee and the players, I've included some tables which is 2d6 roll, and from that you can determine who the client is, why they need assistance, and what's the reasons behind that. It'll give you a target to go after, give you some details about them, who are they, what are their strengths and their weaknesses. The role will also give you a further complication and other people interfering with it. So it's a nice little simple game, and I hope you have some fun with it. Minimald6 is not the sort of game you're going to play long campaigns with, but it's great. If you turn up on a game night and a couple of people have dropped out and you need to run something fast, you can pick up Minimald6 and without any reference to the rules, you can just crack on with it. You can find a link to Minimald6 on my website, and also in the show notes. There's also a link on my website under the RPG section for the long game, and also on the website, which is petejones.neocities.org, you'll also find a link to one of my previous games, which is the Flash Gordon conversion that I did for the ICRPG role-playing game, which is another nice rules-light game by Runehammer. Also, while I think about it, you can also check out dragonsarerealpodcast.tumblr.com. You've been listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. You can contact me by leaving a message via the Anchor app, or visit the podcast website, petejones.neocities.org, or on OSR Anchorites at the Audio Dungeon Discord. Thanks for listening. The opening music is Siesta by Jazar. The closing music is Controlled Distress by BizBaz Studio.